As part of the ComSop, it's very important for us to deal with the life safety portion of the building and the life safety portion of your inspection. Now, there's a lot of things that encompass in life safety that might not necessarily translate perfectly to this building and to all the videos that we do, but I want to go through a list of some of the things that you want to make sure that you have in your head as you're doing the life safety inspection. First, you got to think of an emergency vehicle coming up to the property, and you want to make sure that any overhead electric has to be greater than 13 feet 6 inches above the pavement or above the traffic surface. By doing that, we can ensure that that fire apparatus or that emergency vehicle can come to the property. We also need to identify the fact where there's a fire hydrant. If there is a fire hydrant on the property, there must be at least a 3-foot circle around it where there's no obstructions. Those obstructions will hinder that firefighter from being able to get to the fire hydrant. One of the things I like to do is I'll take a picture of the nearest fire hydrant. Sometimes they're on the property, sometimes they're next to the property. This particular building, they're almost 500 foot away from the property. There's one 500 foot that way, and there's one 500 foot that way. So I just like to take a general picture to know that they're there. And then beyond that, it's important that we start thinking of what is in the building and pertains to the building. In this particular building, it's important that we identify the building number is visible and clear from the street. This particular one is right in front here and very visible for anybody to see. And then when we come inside, I always just take whatever safety devices we have in order. If we have a building that might have a sprinkler system on the outside of the building, we're going to probably have a firefighter hookup or a standpipe for which we can hook up from the pumper truck and put water through the building. In this particular building, we do not have a sprinkler system. And so we're going to talk about the fire extinguishers and the fire alarm, which is necessary for all buildings. First thing we see when we walk into the building is we're going to see the annunciator here. This is actually controlled by the main fire alarm in the mechanical room. And this is for the fire department to come in. And they have a key code on here. They can put a key in here, they can twist it, and will actually show which system has failed, which system has responded. Because as we have these buildings, we have a series of several different types of sensors. The first sensor that we have is we have a standard pull station. Our pull station is the one that you'd pull in grade school to get out of school for the rest of the day. And that's where you pull the alarm down, and when that system comes down, it first goes to the alarm, makes the alarm summons. That alarm system will actually call the municipality or wherever the monitoring system is, and then the actuator, or the strobe light above it, siren comes on, and then that siren will blink a flare, blink a strobe, as well as the siren. Now, that annunciator is not specific, or that pull station is not specifically for that strobe. All the strobes will go off simultaneously. But it's important to know that that pull station goes to that alarm system, and then that alarm system comes back to the annunciator, and then that allows the fire department to know what's going on and where it's going on. If you can imagine a very large building with a very complex system, there could be an annunciator here that's as big as this wall or several panels wide with several different areas that will blink the faults so that fire department can walk into the building and look immediately onto the panel and know exactly where to deploy the resources they need to contain that fire. Beyond the pull station, most commercial buildings do not have smoke detectors. Now, as far as the ComSop goes, we're supposed to note the presence of smoke detectors or the presence of carbon monoxide detectors. We don't have to test them, but most commercial buildings do not have smoke detectors. What most commercial buildings have are heat sensors. And a heat sensor is a device that measures rapid rise of temperature in the building and will instantly summons the fire department, just like the pull station would have. And an example of that would be a fixture that we have up here. And then that fixture is a very common heat sensor. Some buildings will have that heat sensor attached to the fire alarm. Some might have it attached to the security system, depending on what they have in the system, and some might have it attached to both. So we will have heat sensors typically not smoke detectors. Let's go take a look at the main alarm panel. So if we've identified the Annunciator, now one thing to be note of is not every building has an Annunciator. Some buildings do not. This building does, and so I wanted to talk about that. Some buildings just have pull stations and strobes. Some buildings just have pull stations, strobes, and heat sensors, but they might not have Annunciators. So there's a whole difference in there. These systems are designed specifically for that building and are municipality or jurisdictionally driven. So you don't have to be hung up on it has this but doesn't have this. Our job is to note what's present. That's really the key, and identify what's present. So in this building, we do have the fire alarm control panel right here. This is what's linked to the municipality. And so with this, if those fire alarms go off, it's a direct connection out to municipality. Sometimes you'll see these, they have a cellular tower right here, so it sends out a cellular signal. Sometimes these are on the phone system. In this particular case, my job is I'm going to take a picture of this, and I am going to just take note that this is what we have as the alarm system. If you wanted to be even more specific, you can call it a Honeywell ES50X. That could be important because maybe your client wants to know that, because they maybe have to add additional systems based on their company's needs. Nonetheless, our job is to note the fire alarm system. So that's what we've done here. Beyond that, we also have to think about other life safety items. One life safety item that's always important in any building, regardless of the style of building, is a fire extinguisher. Fire extinguishers are labeled and rated at what they're supposed to extinguish and what's on fire. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. And the rating is based on what it's supposed to extinguish. And depending on the rating is how they're supposed to be designated in distance between fire extinguishers. If we're dealing with a standard fire and a fire, just a standard fire, a fire extinguisher must be within 75 feet of the next one. So no matter where you're at, I can't walk more than 75 feet. This particular extinguisher is an ABC, so it can handle A, B, and C fires. Some are for commercial kitchens have to be a K fire, because that's for grease. And so our job is to know what they are and are they properly spaced. The other thing we want to look for is our label plate. That inspection tag has to be within 12 months of being accurate. At 12 months, these are considered to be obsolete and bad. And so in this particular case, this is due next month. And so we want to make sure that I take a picture of the label. One of the interesting things I have found through doing years and years of commercial inspections is some building owners are very, very good at fire extinguisher maintenance. Some are less than good at fire extinguisher maintenance. One of the greatest examples I have of poor fire extinguisher maintenance would be a strip mall, where we might have a building and there might be 6 tenants across this building, and the building owner makes fire extinguisher maintenance on the shoulders of their tenants. And so I'll go in one unit and the extinguisher is perfect. I go in the next unit and it's 5 years out of date. But yet my client's buying the whole building, all 5 units. So I let them know about that, and sometimes it's a good suggestion to have my client maintain all the fire extinguishers themselves, and then maybe have to offset that cost off to their clients. That's off to their tenants. That's up to them. But it's not unusual. And then you really want to track through the building, because you might have that wayward orphan fire extinguisher off in the corner that's been ignored. Because most of the time, like in this particular case, a specific contractor is coming in to maintain this, and this company is probably on the yearly loop. And so next month, I am sure they're making arrangements to come in here because this company wants to be paid. And so they'll just come in here and they either swap these out, test them, and then put a new label on these. But typically they swap them out, take them back to their shop, rejuvenate them, and then bring them back out. Additionally, during the life safety portion of the inspection, our standards are to look for exit lighting and emergency lighting. So in this particular building, we've got an exit light here. This is telling anybody in this building that this is the door that exits out of this level. We have other exit lighting. It's really important as you're migrating through a building, you kind of mentally place yourself in the position of, I need to leave. How do I leave? Does this make sense to me? You got to put yourself in somebody else's point of view. And so in this particular case, I've got this exit light and I've got this exit door. This is a fire door. With a fire door, it needs to be able to open outward, not inward, and it needs to not be chained, not be locked, not be obstructed of any type, and be able to fully swing its entire distance. Let's see if it does that. Yes, this door fully swings all the way open. It's not locked and it's not encumbered. I also know it's a fire door because I do have a fire placard right on the jamb that indicates this is a fire door. We have a door spring mechanism on top. This door needs to self-close. It self-closes because that is a fire corridor. And we need to be able to isolate that space so that if there's a fire in this space, I can get to that space safely and exit the building. And so in doing that, I can open this door. I find myself on this landing. And when I'm on this landing, I can now direct myself out of the building. I do so by finding there's a hand railing. The hand railing is in a position that, imagine if you're visually impaired and you come out through this door, I need to be able to come to a space and know, because my hands are in front of me, that there's a stairwell. And then if I have this hand railing will guide me all the way down these stairs and all the way out to the exit of this building. Let's see if it works. So in doing your life safety and specifically your exit stair, we have a spot here I can grab onto. These stairs are wider than 4 foot. Being wider than 4 foot, we need to have a hand railing on both sides. If it was narrower than 4 foot, we only need the hand railing on the one side. But on this particular side, it's very important to think about being visually impaired. Can you hold your hand railing, and will the hand railing guide you out the building? My hand is on the railing, and I never release it. And I'm able to follow this staircase and this hand railing all the way around and come all the way down as far as I need to go. And because it comes down and returns downward, it's going to tell me I'm on the lowest spot I need to be. And then I can exit out the building. If I followed the staircase down, it's brought me to this landing. Now, yes, if I'm visually impaired, I'm not going to know where to go, and I'm hoping I'm going to be guided out. But if we're a normal able person trying to exit this building, we'll look for the exit light. So if we're a normal able-bodied person, we're going to have to figure out with lighting and everything else how to get out. But every building should have some form of emergency illumination showing us our exit path. In this case, I have an exit light above this door. This particular exit light is a combination exit light and illuminator. So he's got lights that'll on a battery backup basis illuminate this landing area down here and tell me I exit this way. If there was an arrow on it or some other area to designate I gotta go left or right, it would be on there as well. If I'm coming from this way, I would go through the fire door like we showed upstairs, and I would go through this fire door and I would see that exit light, because above this door here is an exit light, and I would go right out the building. And by going right out the building, I have this opportunity to exit the building safely and go right down the ramp. And this is my designated second exit portion of the building, because every building should have two. We might have multiple staircases, we might have multiple spots, but for certain jurisdictions and certain regulations, they're going to say which ones have to be what we'll call our designated exit routes. If you own a building, you'd probably do a fire drill every once in a while to remind your employees how to do it, where to go. But one of the things that's very important to always keep in your mind is we want to make sure that these doors, again, don't have locks. You don't want to see a giant hasp on here because you're worried about security. You don't want to see a big steel bar across here with chains on here because you're worried about security. You want to be worried about fire and life safety, security, lastly. So again, find our exit light, find our means of travel. We want to look for our illumination. It's okay to kind of put yourself in a position somewhere else in the building and try to figure out how you would walk out of the building. That's perfectly fine. I've done enough inspections where I've gotten myself lost in a building and I didn't know how to get out because I don't have any exit lights. Maybe we'll have to look for something like that. It's very important when you're examining exits to create that strategy of how do you get out. So if I come down this particular corridor and I open up this door, I'm in this warehouse space. And in this warehouse space, I have a complete view without a way to get out of this building. If this was pitch dark, no illumination, the only thing I'm going to have is our emergency lighting, which I can see 2 from my space that I'm at right now. That's fantastic. That's going to give me a very low lumen, alternate energy if there's no power, lighting to give some lighting in here, but I still don't know how to get out of the building. If I look around, I've got this large obstruction in this warehouse with no view. Sometimes you'll see in the middle of a warehouse, you'll see a drop-down exit light on a large piece of threaded cable or rod that'll point with an arrow. But if I'm walking this way and it's dark, I do have alternate source illumination. That's fabulous. I have a smoke alarm. Well, that's fine, but I still don't know how to get out of the building. Oh, I have an alternate source of lighting over here. I still don't know. Oh, there's an exit light way over here. So if I'm standing over there, I can't see the exit light that's over here. What do I do? Well, in the perfect world, if I was consulting my client, I would suggest an exit light right here with an arrow pointing this way. Every exit light has the opportunity to make the arrows, and it's just a matter of removing a tag, and I would have an arrow so that I could stand here and go, there's my exit light, clear and visible. If I had an exit, even if they come out of that door right there and had a sign that said exit this way, exit that way, the key is there a clear path for exit? That's something you need to think about during your life safety inspections. Look for that clear path to exit. And if I have one there and I don't have one here, then that's going to be a problem. Another condition to think about in that exit corridor that we were just in, you want to try your best to look for any penetrations through that wall. That is an exit corridor. That is a fire corridor. And so any penetrations that go between that wall, we talked about the fire door, that's important, but you want to look for penetrations. Sometimes that might include going up into the suspended ceiling. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes if you can't get up into the suspended ceiling, especially because of height, you can make note of that and let your client know that you did not go up there. It's important when you write your report to tell the things you did do as well as the things you weren't able to do because of access. But you want to definitely look for fire safety and smoke safety as it goes through that corridor wall. Other items you should always think about when looking at the life safety, look around the building. If you're in a mechanical room, is there flammables being stored there? Are they stored in an appropriate vessel? Are they safe? So many times you're going to go into a building and that building use is going to change. That the ownership between owners is going to do a lot of things differently. But if you start to see things like a space heater, and it's a permanently installed space heater like an electric baseboard heater, and they're storing flammables next to it, that's something that you definitely want to take a note of. But you really kind of want to look at the building usage, and if they've done any permanent installations on systems that don't appear to be in the right location. Those are real keys to look for. So again, if you see that they permanently installed an electric and that permanently installed a space heater or some other electric device that might spark or produce an ambient heat next to maybe a flammable storage area, then you want to make note of that. One example I would have is if it's a warehouse and they're using forklifts, and the forklifts are propane or LP gas driven, you want to make sure that the storage of those is not next to a flame or a heating source. That's what we're talking about when we're looking at some other safety conditions. But if all else fails, make sure you know your CommSop very well and know all the standards prior to doing an inspection.